Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Gypsy and hosted by Cass.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of You Betta THiNK, hosted by Cass Allen. This week we're going to explore the power of hands. And up for that discussion with me are four amazing guests who are all going to share accounts with you, not only about themselves, but what the power of hands means to them. Really looking forward to sharing with you all this week. And as you know, I'm excited as always to kick it off. So let's get started. You better think.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Gypsy and hosted by Cass. When I think of the power of hands, a story comes to mind of my teenage years. A typical situation in some conflict with a teenage quote-unquote friend, which escalates over something stupid. I being 13, she being 15, considered one of my besties. Anonymous, of course. Things escalated, and the next thing I know, I was standing and being punched. Quite in shock that this young child's hands were touching me. As I said, in shock, I'd never been hit before by a peer. I just stood there and took it, I guess like some damn bionic machine of sorts. Until I tasted blood in my mouth. And just like a old martial arts movie, at that moment I knew I had to defend myself. So I pulled back my hand, I closed my eyes and my fist at the same time, and I went for it. And I popped this young lady a fast, hard one. Directly in her mouth, apparently, which I found out once I opened my eyes. She stood there stunned, staring at me as I stood there stunned, returning the look. And then she tried to open her mouth to say something, but realized that her gum was stuck in her teeth. Unfortunately, this situation did not end here, but the point is the touch. This young girl had been my best friend up until this point, and we were quite best friends. We hugged, we played, we had touch through kinship. Until this day she touched me to harm me. Whether it was impulsive or not, I'll never know. But the point is, she touched me in a way that I did not like, and I felt that I needed to touch her in return to stop her fire. I was not trying to hurt her, but I did. And from that day forward, I promised that I would never hit a person again. And I have not, although I have given a few people a delirium shake to prevent such things from happening to myself, admittedly. I have no problem with giving people a bear claw, a WWF pin down, whatever it takes to suppress you from harming me, without a doubt. But I am not one to take my hands and touch people in harm. To me, the world is like a big open sand field where we just get in there and play in the sandbox and use our hands to build things. It's truly up to us what to build, what to use those hands to touch and pull up from the earth, from which all things come, through humankind's touch with the elements. We take them, we roll them, we form them into things that create all of the visions around us, simply from the sand, from the touch of the human, into the elements to reshape them and retool them, almost like playing instruments. And in the thoughts of that beauty, I take my hands and try to pull out things from my vision and hope they become tangible and connect with you all. Thus my art, my music, my books, comedy, to touch you all. As you all know, I believe we're all cousins. It's just up to us how to treat each other. I choose to touch you all with what I feel is love, laughter, and a little easy breezy with some thinking, and share products and services that I hope can be of use as I use that coin to survive and pour it back into things that help to seed our generations so that they can have beautiful trees. That's what I'm thinking about. Talk about the power of your hands with your family and friends. Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen. Well, as I mentioned to you, we have an amazing lineup for you today. My first guest, I'm very excited to introduce to you. His name is Rahiem, aka Ra, and he was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. He has been a prominent force in the hip hop industry since its inception. Ra started as a member of the pioneering hip hop group Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He's one of VH1's 2005 hip hop honorees.
In 2007, these legendary lyricists became the first hip hop performers to be inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rahiem has collaborated with such artistic talents as Nas, Teddy Riley, Angela Winbush, and award-winning producer Dr. Dre. In '92, he demonstrated his musical strengths by transitioning from great MC into professional vocalist for the R&B soundtrack single Does Your Man Know About Me? I could keep going. That would take our whole show, but I'll say he's an educator of hip hop culture and continues to be a trailblazer in the entertainment industry. Everybody, please welcome Ra to the show. Thank you for joining us, Rahiem. As you know, the topic for this season's episode is the power of hands. And we have so much going on today. I usually just get right into it so we can get a lot more of you all. So speaking to the topic, I'd like you to start off by telling us what the power of hands means to you.
The power of our hands, good or bad. Our hands are a necessary tool and an extension in order to facilitate any physical need. But if we look at the allegory of the power of our hands, for good or bad, meaning the power of our hands, meaning the power that we innately have in us, our abilities overall, we have the power in our hands to do either good or bad. And that can be literally applied to our hands or our abilities. And so as it relates to our abilities, we have the power in our hands to implement ways in society to advance without the need for conflict. If we so desire, if we were to all come to the understanding that it's about the advancement of humanity, that power is in our hands. And so we have the power in our hands to either fulfill the need for humanity's advancements, or we have the power in our hands to be destructive the way that we are seeing things happen today. And, either way, we have the power.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.
Rahiem, I love the way you spoke to the power of hands and that we do have the power to do anything with our hands, whether it be creative or destructive. Thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today, as I said, and I'll be getting back to you shortly. Just hang in there. I'd like to go through all of our guests and discuss the power of hands. before we get into some more intimate conversation. Next up is LaQuana. LaQuana has a sultry voice that'll have you humming and dancing. Her latest song is amazing. I'll get to that later. I don't want to spoil it. Right now, we're going to focus on the power of hands. Welcome, LaQuana, to You Betta THiNK. And we're going to get right into it with you, just as we do with everyone else. And I'd like you to speak to the power of hands, the subject for this episode.
The power of hands. Coming together, unifying, lending a hand where you see fit, whether in building an empire, giving advice, or just your support. Your hands can always make a difference. The smallest things can result with great accomplishments.
Thank you for that, LaQuana. That's an excellent point you made, that the greatest things can result from the smallest acts of the hand. Thank you again for joining us today and hanging in there for this episode with us. Now we're going to move straight into introducing our next guest for this evening. As I told you, it's packed. We now have Michelle Isley on the set, DJ, producer, investor, and more. Currently releasing a CD this summer, Electronic Love Affair. I'd like you to welcome on the scene Michelle Isley. Thank you for joining us here today, Michelle. As with the other two guests that we just spoken to, Rahiem and LaQuana, on the subject for today, which is the power of hands, I'd like you to share what it means to you.
Cass, thank you so much for having me on the You Betta THiNK radio talk show. It's a pleasure and an honor. This topic, the power of hands, absolutely resonates with me as a DJ. The power that lies in our hands is metaphysical, spiritual to me. Our thoughts are energy. Energy is vibration. Music is vibrational energy. Having thoughts of sounds like music are a type of energy. Our hands are also musical. They are an actual musical instrument, whether live or pre-recorded on a track or a program, computer program. We use the power of our hands to clap or snap fingers with or without accompanying music. While DJing, the power within my hands selects the music that I'm thinking of, which is released out of the speakers, then soaked into the minds and bodies of my audience. As a DJ, I hold the power in my hands to influence the movements and thoughts of people who are listening, whether at a dance party or on the radio. Because of this, I am very mindful of what songs or instrumental tracks I want to play, because it dictates the mood and behaviors of my audience. So as a DJ, the power is literally in my hands.
Michelle, thank you for expressing yourself on the power of hands. I'm Rahiem, LaQuana, and Michelle. I appreciate all three of you. I love the way you all discuss the power of hands and how you all spoke from different elements, but it all comes back to the same thing, that we do have power to create and to destroy, and it's up to us. Sometimes destruction's not a bad thing. Sometimes we have to destroy old things to make room for new. Sometimes we have to take down buildings. We have to destroy old habits. We have to destroy old files. So let's not always focus as we listen to this with hands have the power to destroy. Let's remember sometimes that destruction is necessary.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.
And on that note, it's time for our usual monthly treat from the poetess Chanelle. I'm happy to say she's able to join us once again this month and drop some words on the power of hands. Are you ready?
Power of the Hands by Chanelle. It's vital what we use our hands to do. Decisions I made with my hands almost cost me my life and freedom too. My experiences molded me into who I am today, thanking the Most High who guided me along the way. Made a 180-degree turn after a series of life events. Now I use my hands to write eloquently with a pen. Using my words to hopefully inspire others, we must always celebrate and encourage one another. These hands were wet from tears of pain I shed. Now I use them to give back to society instead. Using your hands for selfish purposes only will lead to a life of isolation and you wonder why you're so lonely. I've learned this the hard way when I lost the one I loved because I used my hands to love and touch someone else. That regret still haunts me in my thoughts. That's why now I keep my hands to myself. It really wasn't worth it now that I think about it. My hands are reserved for my next relationship. There's no doubt about it. Doing evil with your hands along with bad company will lead you down the road of destruction eventually. Listen to me, I know what I'm talking about. I'm speaking from experience, not just with my mouth. Wisdom can be acquired by using your hands to flip pages. Gems that are priceless helps navigate through life's mazes. One wrong turn can leave you at a dead end. Use your hands for creativity, the gift that lies within. Everyone has a gift that is exclusively yours. Use your hands to cultivate and give back to the world. See, I thought it was all about me until the Most High removed the scales off my eyes and now I can see. Use your hands for good, he instructed me. Now he's catapulted me into my destiny. Power of the hands. Let's use them to prosper and succeed. And let not our hearts be filled with pridefulness and greed. So smile and rejoice when you bring someone along. You may have saved a life and made them become strong. Power of the hands.
Chanelle, thank you for another beautiful poem, which I know touched all of us. You spoke so eloquently to the power of hands again, and another reference than the other three artists who came before you. What's interesting to me is also with the power of hands, how you all do use your hands to create things in the music industry in particular, which leads me into further exploring our next subject, which is becoming intimacy with some of our guests. As you all know, one of the goals of bringing people on the air is to discuss parts of them that you might not necessarily be so accessible to. Many times, people in the limelight, we're so busy following their relationship, who they're dating, or what they're doing, and we don't necessarily know anything about the person. We might have that quick story of how they got started, but some of those things that define character and help us fall in love with people are, I find, some of the things that are missing. A lot of times we talk to celebrities about how they feel about certain issues, but for our goal here is to really sit down with them and talk about their inspirations, what gets them started, where they want to be. And again, as we've been doing through the first part of this episode, connecting the people to the things that go on in life and how they feel and what makes them get up in the morning. So thank you for being a part of this. And I'd like to thank all four of my guests so far, Rahiem, LaQuana, Poetess Chanelle, and Michelle Isley, for contributing to that part of the episode. I'm sure that the words that you spoke, luckily they were on various parts of hands. so I'm sure our audience will enjoy listening and identifying with the things that you speak to. And on that note, we're going to start diving deeper into our guests. And we're going to start out with Rahiem and hit the table with him again and find out a couple of things about him. First of all, I'd like to know, Rahiem, what's your inspiration? Who's your inspiration? What gets you going in the creative world?
My first musical inspiration was my mother, and then all of the legendary artists that she exposed me to, like Gladys Knight and the Pips, Sly and the Family Stone, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, James Brown, the Temptations, Hamilton, Bohannon, artists like that.
What a great selection, Rahiem. As I listen to you speak, I think about how humble you are. You speak with such a special tone, for lack of a better word. You have a way about you that's very easygoing, yet it has a eloquent, inspirational lift to it, which I like to summarize as humbleness. What keeps you so humble?
I managed to stay humble and grounded by not taking myself too seriously. I do what I love to do, which is create, write music, make songs, record, and I don't think that that makes me any more privileged than anyone else. So that's what keeps me humble.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy.
Rahiem, thank you again for your response to the question. Again, I find you to be a very humble man, and I'm sure that's a very attractive trait to many spirits out there. Let's switch gears and go back to LaQuana. LaQuana, getting to know you a little bit more as we've been doing with Rahiem, I'd like to speak to your most recent release. You have a beautiful song out here named Rise Above It All, and I'd like to know what motivated you to write it.
Thank you so much, Cass, and thank you for having me on your show. What motivated me to do this song was me not giving up and facing my fears. I wanted to come out of that place of doubting myself. There's a woman in my life who's like an aunt to me, and her name is Brenda Washington. She's someone that I would go to for advice and vent to at times. She would always say to me, Q, you have to rise above it. You have to rise above it. And one day while I was working on my music, I just kept hearing, rise above it, rise above it. And I began to think about those things that have been blocking and affecting me and causing me to stand in my own way, so to speak. And I just began to sing, rise above it all. Whatever the all may be, all the failures, the disappointments, the fears, the unforgiveness, the things of the past, the lack of confidence, and even people, whatever it may be. I am one who experienced a rough life, from molestation, domestic violence, cancer, being homeless, depression, anxiety, just to name a few. And as I say in the song, we overcome by our testimony. And not only that, your testimony may save someone else's life and aspirations. So I've decided to release this song in hopes to encourage, inspire, strengthen, and uplift someone.
LaQuana, I'm encouraged, inspired, and uplifted just listening to you speak. As I said, I love your song, and I would love your permission to share it with our listeners so that they could feel that black joy that I felt. What do you say?
Absolutely. I would love for you to play my song. Definitely. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. We got permission to play Rise Above It All by LaQuana. Let's go.
Life happens. There's gonna be some ups and downs, disappointments. You got to keep pushing, keep looking to the hills which come with your help. Know that everything would be alright. Be free. You got to live your life. Leave your stress behind. Lift your head up high. Rise above it all. Rise above it all. Rise above it all. You gotta rise above it all. I choose love and happiness and a peace of mind. We're overcome by our testimony. So leave the past behind. Be free. You got to live your life. Leave your stress behind. You got to lift your head up high. You got to rise. Rise above it all. You gotta rise above it all. Sometimes you feel like the world's on your shoulders. Everything's going wrong. Don't you give up. So much living to do. Just hold on and be strong. It's all up to you. You gotta rise above it all. You got to rise above it all. You gotta rise above it all.
LaQuana, thank you for that amazing song, Rise Above It All. I tell you, it's inspiring no matter what mood I'm in. When I wake up, rise. Obviously, it works. If you agitate it, rise so that you ascend through the issues. If you already in a good mood, rise because you already there. I really thank you for bringing that song out. And thank you for coming on today. And also, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are going to be typing your name, L-A capital Q-U-A-N-A, rise above it all. And add on to that for me, please, and let the listeners know how they can reach you.
You can follow me on my Instagram page, Q Music. That's the letter Q, Music. And my other Instagram page, which I post on as well, is Manhattan Valley, ManhattanValley. If you want to see the video, check out the video on YouTube. Just type in LaQuana, LaQuana, followed by Rise Above It All, and it should pop up. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. Thanks again. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.
LaQuana. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Hopefully, you can come on again in the future and let us know some new stuff that you're up to. Speaking to the theme of the power of hands, I thought I'd get a little more intimate with you all. The power of hands, as it relates to me in another aspect, is just the ability to be able to use our hands or use appendages. We all take so much for granted. There was a time in my life where I was going through some really harsh carpal tunnel syndrome issues, and I wore my hands bandaged up 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, else they curled, and I had excruciating pain running through my hands, up into my arms, etc. As many of you know from assembly work, meaning repetitive work, I was heavily into typing in my life, and it caught up to me at some point where I was given the choice to start the surgical processes, to keep subsiding the issue or to change the way I was doing my work and my lifestyle. And I opted for the lifestyle change. And the power of my hands took me down quite a roller coaster. At the time, I changed my position, and at the same time, we hit a recession, and so goes the story. But the point was that in protecting my hands, something else opened up, which was more like a Pandora's box. My intention and my good intention was to protect my hands from further harm, and in doing so, I took a leap of faith and spiraled down a roller coaster of other events. Fast forwarding, I faced a health issue where I had a stroke and was paralyzed on one side of my body for a moment in my arm and hand. Um, I could move it, but I couldn't feel it. At another point in my life, I had another stroke, which hit the other side of my body in the same areas, my hand and my arm. In addition, this time took control of my mouth. In those moments, as I began to utter loudly to God with the strength that I had, I was so grateful for all of my experiences up to that day and the things that I'd been gifted with to be able to do. And everything did flash from childhood forward, all of the things that I'd done, the encounters, the things I said. What was I happy for? What was I sad for? I'm happy to say that I was at peace with the people of the world. But as I stood there searching in my head for what I would like to have done if this were my last day, which I did not know, all I could think about was all of the gifts that we are provided with from the day we come here. Those things you come here doing and not understanding how you know if you're able to discover them. And I thought about the things that I had not done. And many of them came back to my hands. Things I had put to the side, or things I didn't think might matter, or things I didn't want to make time for, or things I didn't know how to make time for. And these things were things that were so the heart was hungry for. And in that moment I said to whatever is out there that has created all of this beauty and has control of my destiny, that if I live, survive this instance, I will share my gifts more openly with the universe and no longer keep them to myself, because in that moment I understood that they were given to me so that I could be an instrument and that I could be a medium, and all of us could be and share with each other and make that thing we call humanity, which to me is just a big, beautiful bowl of soup of different ingredients. And here I am today, in testimony to the power of my hands. When I came out of the hospital and got to a point where I felt I was ready to engage again in activities, I was just so excited to use my hands to gather all of my dolls from my Dollhouse Chronicles and begin to express myself through them. And I took it to animation. I was so excited to start this radio show and use my hands to start writing down ideas. I was excited to start designing and use my hands to start sketching out nice designs, so many things with my hands. The power of the hands, all I wanted to do, as I said, is just enjoy this spectrum a little longer and share the gifts that come from my hands, head, heart, and soul, and all those other places with all of you. Therefore, I am today. I can imagine you all hear that excitement in my voice because I love what I do. And as I said in my own testimony, I made a commitment to share more of me with you. Therefore, I'm using every medium I can to get to you all and share what I believe is a part of my journey, which is to connect to people and remind us all that we really are cousins, as you'll hear me say throughout all my various channels. I believe we are all cousins. We just need to own it and start taking care of each other. And a part of that is using our hands to hug each other more, hand each other gifts, stop fights, block negative energy, things to uplift each other. The power of hands.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.
And on that note, we're going to switch back to Rahiem, who's been kind enough to still be here throughout the show with us as well. As you all might imagine, I have a surprise for you. Rahiem gave us the permission to sample a little bit of his work. This man is quite genius with his musical mind. He writes, he mixes, he produces, he creates. He's all that. He plays instruments, and he gifts us all with live visitations into his studio, and I get to listen and I enjoy what he's doing. So I asked his permission to drop a little sample with you all so that you can hear what I'm hearing. It's fresh and it's coming to you straight from New York. Rahiem, little play with New York. Here we go.
New York, the city of Gotham. Only direction is up when you come from the bottom. BK, Queens, Bronx, Charlotte, Harlem, and Yonkers. We made for this shit, you can't guard us. I grew up in the city where you had to have tight game or get chewed up in a minute, get spit out and life change. Cons coming at you like they great white sharks, looking for somebody's money they could take like yours. Fuck around you like it beige cause it ain't white raw, or drama lane if that's the kind of game you take life for. Never had working papers, rap was my summer job, hanging out with perpetrators, cash was my underboss. New York is like a speedway, and I was just another young boy out looking for green day. Streets unrelenting gave us no leeway. You gotta implement your vision when they don't see ways. You want a trophy in the game, then you gotta be patient. Want smoke me with the flames, and it better be kitchen. Focus sharper than switchblades. That's why it's apropos in the city, not the bother with bitch made. New York, the city of Gotham. Only direction is up when you come from the bottom.
I don't have to tell y'all, that track is hot. New York, New York. I can't wait to hear that thing completely. I already see myself spinning that myself and dancing to it. I got surprises for y'all today. I got surprises for myself. We're in a music mood, and next up, we're going to sample The Dark Side from the Electronic Love Affair CD coming out this summer by Michelle Isley. You're listening to You Betta THiNK, hosted by Cass Allen. Let's keep it going. I know y'all listeners are on fire because I am. Do you hear what the power of hands has done for you all and me today? The gifts that we received from Rahiem, LaQuana, Michelle Isley, and Poetess Chanelle. Just beautiful. To keep it flowing, Cass gonna hop in here too. Y'all know I dibble and dabble in music, art, writing, and mathematics. Those are my four gifts. I've been playing across those four since I can remember being here. No one is above the other. When I'm in one too long, the other calls me, and the next, and the next. So I'm grateful that I'm living in a digital world where I'm able to mix all of those things together and deliver the things that I do to you. Today I'm going to do a little expression through one of my tracks that's been out there for quite a bit because I have not been heavily into the music industry at all outside of listening because I'm delving into these other projects that you see. So I hope you enjoy. Here we go again with a little bit of Cass Allen spinning it in.
Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. I just laugh at it. You should've known. Now I'm coming for ya. Yo. And now what? Yeah, this is my train. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. I just laugh at it. You should've known. Now I'm coming for ya. And now what? And now what? And now what? Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Who's in my shack? This is my. 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 I'll keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. I'll keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. I'll keep it stepping. Train and you own my tracks. This is my train and you own my tracks. I just laugh at it. Who's in my shack? Who's in my shack? Now keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. Now keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. I just laugh at it. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Now keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Now keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. Now keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. Who's in my shack? This is my train and you own my tracks. You should've known. Now I'm coming for ya. Who's in my shack? 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 I'll keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. I'll keep it stepping, keep it stepping, keep it stepping. I'll keep it stepping.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.
Hey, I hope you all enjoyed that music medley that we spun off this episode for you all. The sounds coming from Rahiem, the sounds coming from LaQuana, the sounds coming from Poetess Chanelle, the sounds coming from Michelle Isley, and the sounds coming from Cass Allen, myself. I enjoyed showcasing all of us just to show you a little sample of some of the things we do or have done using the power of our hands. I think for any of you who've been following the show thus far and was privileged to listen to the entire music showcase, you'll notice that everything that was presented was different. No two genres were the same. Each one of us expressed something through music and or voice, and they were all pretty cool to listen to. Usually when we listen to stations, the music's all geared towards one genre. You're listening to the best classic, the best hip hop, the best whatever, and I get that. But I totally am the type of person who likes mixes and appetizers, various things on my plate, which is why I really enjoyed showcasing all the various artists with the different elements that each brought to the table to bring us a great soup and great, wonderful, intimate, soulful episode of You Better Think. I'd like to thank you, Rahiem, for being here today and gifting us with your words and your music. I'd like to thank you, LaQuana, for being here today and gifting us with your words and music. I'd like to thank you, Poetess Chanelle, for being here today and gifting us with the music that we hear in your words. I'd like to thank you, Michelle Isley, for being here today and gifting us with your music. As I mentioned in the past, I'd like to thank you all for your gifts in particular and remind you that you matter and that your value is key to us all coming together and representing as a nation and being able to be autonomous within ourselves, gifting each other with all of the things that we can do with our hands. Often we think that we have to wait for something to happen, for someone to give us a signal to go out and do something that we're sitting here dreaming of, for someone to hire us into that position, for someone to say, go do it. But understand you have the power in your hands to create all kinds of magic. You don't have to have the whole. Whatever parts that you can contribute, find those partners. Listen to the word partner. It's formed from parts that form the whole. Your gifts matter. Your part is important to the whole. Never think that, oh, it's insignificant. Or you sit and you make the most beautiful dolls, but you don't think anyone will be interested because they don't look like the stuff on the market. Or you may use your hands to write a song that sounds unusual because it doesn't sound what's on the market. Understand that is the source of creation, forming from self as identified through whatever you use to keep yourself going. You all know I don't get into theology with people. It is whatever your source is of inspiration, whatever makes you feel like you're in your mojo, whatever has you zoning, whatever you're doing where you look up and go, oh my God, 18 hours passed and it felt like three. Whatever you can do almost and not be able to explain. And that's not saying that the things that we contribute can't come from learning things. I'm simply saying allow yourself to be free to explore yourself and see what your hands can do as they relate to your mind, your spirit, and anything else you want to attach to them. May it be through like myself, through my music, I've used my hands to disc jockey, to produce, and a number of things. Through my art, I have used of various media to express myself. Through my writing, I have used various media, typewriters, laptops, pen and paper, to express myself. Mathematics, oh my God, super geek when I was younger. I read mathematic books just for fun, as if I were reading novels. That's how I know those four things are things that are core to me. Whether it's the power of your hands or the power of your imagination, because at the end of the day, your hands are expression of things that come to thought. Let yourself be free to find out what you like and don't like, even. Some of us have talents we don't even know we have because we think about things, but we don't attach on to them and take that tip and that whisper and follow that to see that that's already there for us. That voice that says, go out there and paint. And you go, nah, I can't paint. Not knowing that you're already a genius. When I was a kid, to go into a quick story, I was in school, elementary school, and a teacher gave me an F on an assignment that I had, which was to draw something that I saw. I took a picture of a famous man at the time, Peter Fonda, and I replicated it. And my teacher gave me an F and accused me of tracing. I was probably no more than 7 or 8 years old. And my mother came to the school to find out why I received this F. And this teacher told my mother that she believes I traced this person. And my mother asked her, "Did you watch her draw it?" And the teacher stumbled because the teacher had not watched me do anything. At the end of the day, that picture was so on point that when she laid it on, you could tell it was not traced, but it was pretty core because that was something that was innate in me. I was able to take my eye at such a young age and mirror things that I saw, and I got a lot of attention for it. The point of the story here is that I didn't know how to draw. I didn't think I did. I just know that I had a pen and paper in my hand, and my parents allowed me creative space to just doodle and play with whatever tools I wanted to with my hands. I am very blessed that they let me draw. They let me study architecture. They let me take painting workshops. They let me do my thing with my hands. They bought me jigsaw puzzles. They bought me mathematic books. They bought me stencils and anything I wanted. They bought me keyboards, typewriters, whatever, because I have always felt like there's something in these hands that need to come out, which is obviously an expression of the spirit. So y'all know me. I'm already past my usual time. So I'm gonna cut this to letting you know that I love you all because we're all cousins. And I hope you all have some conversation about the power of your hands and begin to look at them like the tools that they are and build and destruct too as necessary.
Hi, you're listening to You Betta THiNK, sponsored by Born Gypsy and hosted by Cass Allen.